There are simply too many Phyrexia All Will Be One spoilers to keep up with in a single day. It's absolute madness. We have already released one video today that you can see by clicking the link in the description. It's a good one. In this video, we have a Sylex, because those are always safe, some awesome limited nonsense, an emotional callback, and much more. I do hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, please hit that like button. It helps out a lot. The Filigree Sylex is 2 mana for a legendary artifact. You can tap it to put an oil counter on it. You can also tap it and sacrifice it to destroy each non-land permanent with mana value equal to the number of oil counters on it. You can also tap it and remove 10 oil counters from among permanents you control and sacrifice the Sylex to deal 10 damage to any target. Alright. The Filigree Sylex is what happens when a Ratchet Bomb wakes up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning. It isn't technically a strictly better Ratchet Bomb, but 99% of the time it is. Might be a solid card in constructed sideboards. Even without the last ability, it's cheap to play, no mana to charge up, and good for taking down loads of annoying tiny creatures or enchantments or artifacts or basically anything you don't like. Considering we're about to enter a world full of Proliferate though, that last ability could see some play. Even in Commander, use it in some nice artifact synergy strategies, Gliss of the Trade or Emery if you're one of the 4 people playing Emery. The Sylex is interesting, and I think it's the best chance to make an impact in a constructed sideboard for sure. Prosthetic Injector is 1 mana for an artifact equipment with an equip cost of 1. Equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has Toxic 1. Pretty simple equipment here, but that's okay. I like how cheap it is to play and equip. A low-to-the-ground equipment that can get some early poison counters on the board and give additional chunk to one of your creatures to help avoid some early burn spells. Hard to argue with that in Limited. Not much more to say, but a solid equipment for what it's supposed to be. Incisor Glider is 1 of anything and 1 white for a 1/3 artifact creature Phyrexian construct with flying and corrupted. Whenever it attacks, if an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. First, this is Kartana from Pokemon, right? Didn't know Ultra Beasts were completed, but it makes sense. Second, this is some sweet might support in Limited. The reason I'm covering this common in a video like this is to point out that there is indeed low to the ground wide might support for Limited. Also has flying, so it doesn't have to attack into its death by default all the time. It's a cool little common. Tamiyo's Immobilizer is 3 of anything and 1 blue for an artifact that enters the battlefield with 4 oil counters on it. You can tap it and remove an oil counter from it to tap target artifact or creature. So good for Limited. I know it has limited uses without proliferating, but that's okay. 4 uses is more than 0, and in a lot of situations will be long enough for you to either win the game or stall until you get the answer you want. Being able to keep a giant creature at bay the turn this thing comes down will save your life in Limited. Never underestimate these icy manipulator-like cards. They are annoying and effective. Ask Tumble Magnet. That thing saw too much play. It was a nightmare. Rough translation incoming. Awaken the Sleeper is 3 of anything and 1 red for a sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn. If it was equipped, you may destroy all equipment attached to that creature. If this translation is correct, wow. What a way to annihilate some important equipment. Always fun seeing a unique spin on active treason. This is pretty close to Shackles of Treachery, but the Shackles requires damage to be dealt and only destroys 1 equipment at a time. If the translation is right here, Awaken the Sleeper is a boss equipment destroyer. Totally brutal. I'm a big fan. Cacophony Scamp is 1 red mana for a 1/1 Phyrexian Goblin Warrior. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it if you do proliferate. When it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. I really wish that it proliferated somehow before the death trigger so it could benefit from itself, but we can't have everything we want in 1 mana 1/1s, am I right? Regardless, this card's interesting. It doesn't have haste, which is a bummer, but when it dies, it deals its damage to any target. Those who have had to deal with Fanatical Firebrand or Mog Fanatic know how annoying that can be. Now, this is a bit more narrow in that it can't kill itself whenever it wants, but you can leave it back to block if you want, or just keep swinging in until your opponent kills it. Would be nice with some early equipment like the Prosthetic Injector from earlier, force them to take action. It's neat. Gleeful Demolition is 1 red mana for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact. If you control that artifact, create 3 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens. Oh, okay, so we're just printing Kuldotha Rebirth again, but not a common because we learned our lesson and don't want to destroy Pauper. That's fair enough. Nice way to get a bunch more little attackers, and you can technically target your own indestructible artifacts if you like. They survive, you get the goblins anyways. All the card really cares about is that you control the artifact. Nice little synergy there if you want to be cute. Oxida Finisher is 5 of anything and 2 red for a 7/5 Ogre Rebel with trample and affinity for equipment. I am loving this affinity for equipment thing. In limited, a 7 mana 7/5 with trample demands a removal spell or it'll kill at least one giant creature on its way to the graveyard, but with even just 1 or 2 equipment, the value becomes impressive. More than this card itself, I'm excited to see affinity for equipment on more cards. It's a really great idea. Resistant Skywarden looks familiar. Anyways, 3 of anything and 2 red for a 5/5 Ogre Rebel. Hey, I know this guy! Ogre Resistor! You're back, you didn't die! And that flavor text, it started with, he didn't have a word for home, but he knew it was something to be defended, and has now glowed up into, when the Volshock taught him the word for home, he knew it was what he had been fighting for. Oh, I'm not crying, you're crying, shut up! Sawblade Scamp is 1 red mana for a 1/1 Phyrexian beast with haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on the Scamp. You can tap it and remove an oil counter from it to have it deal 1 damage to each opponent. I honestly think this could see play in whatever mono red aggro deck shows up at the beginning of the new standard format. 1 mana 1/1s with haste are always worth paying attention to, and this one has upside. Synergizing with cheap burn spells, letting you stack up oil counters for when a creature drops that is too big for the Scamp to break through. Great way to get around combat for a little 1/1. The 1 damage ability doesn't even require mana, so it's effectively like unblockable if you can keep getting more oil counters for it, which shouldn't be a problem since it'll be in a mono red deck. I know it's just an unassuming common, but I think it's playable for sure. It's worth testing at the very least. Urabrask's Anointer is 3 of anything and 1 red for a 4/2 artifact creature Phyrexian Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of permanents you control with oil counters on them. I'm having a hard time with this one. 4 mana for a 4/2 that comes with an enter the battlefield ability that damages any target. It's historically good. The problem is, I don't know just how plentiful oil counters are going to be in limited. You need to have oil counter producers in your deck, and then you need them on the battlefield with their counters still intact, not used. I don't believe this is as good as Fanatic of Mogus or Flametongue Kavu. I would say it's a narrower volley veteran, which is to say that it's still fine and hitting any target is really nice, but it isn't in bomb territory for limited. Expand the Spheres, 3 of anything and 1 green for a sorcery. Wow, text box, okay. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. Put up to 2 land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you put fewer than 2 lands onto the battlefield this way, proliferate a number of times equal to the difference. This is actually really nice. At least you can't whiff for the most part. You either get the 2 lands, they don't even have to be basic lands by the way, they can be any land cards, that's important, or you get to proliferate, which is going to matter in any deck this goes in. The best part is that you get to choose. It says you can put up to 2 land cards, which means even if you have 2 land cards, you don't have to choose them both. It's full versatility. I kinda really like this card. Unnatural Restoration is 1 of anything and 1 green for a sorcery. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Proliferate. Strictly better Nature Spiral, so I will take this all day. I think it will be more than decent in limited as Recursion is pretty nice in general and Proliferate will likely have a lot of counters to bump up. Also, that art is weird. It's like real weird. Today we got to see a lot of interesting cards that help us round out the narrative in this set. From the bombs to the limited playables, the feel and flavor here are fantastic. I haven't been disappointed in much so far, and would love to hear what you have to say about all of this, so friggin' speak up, get loud in the comments, type in all caps, I'm giving you permission, scream to your heart's content. Remember to stay tuned to the channel for more Phyrexia All Will Be One preview coverage as there's tons more to come, and as always, thanks for watching.